Hi there, welcome to episode 159 of the WaveBack Music Podcast. My name is Kris.
And I'm Matt.
And we've got a very special episode for you today. After taking a few years off of doing this properly, Matt and I have finally found the energy, time, and most importantly the help to bring you the WaveBack Awards. We've combed through hours upon hours of video game music to determine the best of the best in video game music from 2022. Welcome to the 2022 WaveBack Awards. Well, hi there, Matt.
What's up, Kris?
Nothing much. Just, over here living the dream. Very excited to be doing this again. This was a lot of work.
I'm glad you said find the energy and time and the help. The help is very important. It's I know you and I have talked about it a bunch, how the time off we've taken from it has been bothersome because it's not the proper. But it's good to get back to the proper. It's
fun to talk about just our personal favorite things we heard throughout the year, and I might want to try to continue to do that just as a special episode after, WaveBack Awards in the future. But this is what I always wanted to do, the put the effort in to try to be impartial and take it seriously, because I mean, as we just saw the video game music made it into the Grammys this year, and it was like video game music was the genre, which is completely absurd. Like, you're going to tell me that the winner of the Grammy for video game music was Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and that belongs in the same genre and category as the soundtrack to Donut Dodo. And hilariously enough, Assassin's Creed Valhalla didn't make any of our categories. No. It didn't make a single one, and it was considered, but it didn't.
I think we have a very different criteria.
I think so too. I mean, it's difficult to say what goes into making those decisions for the Grammys, but the whole purpose of this was to try to take this as seriously as possible and not discount things that don't sound like movie soundtracks, but also not discount things that do, like those modern games with the modern scores. They absolutely were considered, and I found people who played those games to let me know if there were any songs that deserved to be put up, and then when they were, we put them in the categories, and we'll break down how it break down how it all worked. But I'm proud of this show, and let's get to work.
Yes. Sorry, I'm just reading a little bit about the history of the Grammys and video game music.
Oh, well, tell me all about it after the show.
Sounds great.
All right, everybody, officially welcome to the 5th annual WaveBack Awards. Here is how it works. Matt and I put out a call to arms to everyone we know in video games, including numerous fan groups, fellow VGM podcasts, Nintendo Force magazine, and more. We asked people to recommend songs to be put up for consideration in a number of categories. We then assembled a panel of 4 individuals to join us in coming up with a list of nominees. Once everyone's 5 nominations were tallied up, those songs became official nominees. Everyone then voted on the final winners out of those nominees, with Matt and myself acting as tiebreakers when necessary. First, let's meet our panel of judges. We were fortunate enough to be helped out by Vicky, our previous co-host of this podcast, Ferg, the host of the Atari 2600 Game by Game podcast and avid music enthusiast, Matt Flamger, a good friend of the show and video game music trivia champion, as well as Jude Gore, high school band director and friend of the show.
Now, let's go over the categories. We will be issuing awards for Best Menu Map Music, Best Game Opener, Best Stage Area Music, Best Cinematic Event Music, Best Shop Music, Best Boss Music, Best Remaster Remake Soundtrack, Best Original Song, and Best Original Soundtrack. There were a few stipulations to qualify for nomination. First, we only considered console games. Opening the floodgates to PC games would have made listening to everything completely unmanageable for our small team. Second, the game had to have had its home console debut in 2022. That means that even if a game released in 2021 on Steam, as long as its first home console appearance was in 2022, it qualifies for the awards. We tried to listen to every single soundtrack that we could, and with the help of our friends and colleagues, we were also able to consider every major release we could think of, and a whole mess of other releases as well. We know these could never be definitive awards, but we did the very best that we could to approach each category with as much respect and impartiality as possible.
All right, let's get to our first award. The first category we're tackling is Best Menu or Map Music. Many games are all about the action, but scoring a game's downtime can be just as important as its gameplay. Whether it's a level-up menu, a title screen, or a map that connects areas, these songs can truly make or break a game. Here are the nominees for Best Menu or Map Music. And the nominees are Atari 50, The Anniversary Celebration, Menu Theme by Bob Baffy. Atari Mania, Museum Theme by Pascal Lamarche. Nintendo Switch Sports, Menu Theme by Haruko Torii and Takuhiro Honda. Vampire Survivors, Dust Elementals by Daniele Zandara. Xenoblade Chronicles 3, Iris Network by Manami Kiyota. And the winner is Menu Theme from Atari 50, The Anniversary Celebration by Bob Baffy. This was a tight one. This was a dead even split between this and Iris Network from Xenoblade Chronicles 3, actually, for the finals here. As far as votes and, as the tiebreaker, I personally had to give it to Atari 50 just because I think it's an incredible piece of music. I think it's also does such a remarkable job of capturing the feeling of what it was going for, because the menu in Atari 50 is such an important piece of that game, because most of it is interacting with an interactive timeline, which is basically just a giant menu. It's a phenomenal song. What we're going to play for you here is actually a slightly shortened version, because the full version is like, I don't know, 15 minutes long or something, because it ducks down to this really, really quiet part that extends for quite a long time, as it should. It turns the focus. It basically sucks you in with this really, really great, beautiful piece, and then it pulls back and lets the game itself, the content you're looking at, become the center focus, and then it occasionally jumps back in with a loop and kind of like being a little bit more exciting until fading back out again. And it has this amazing like museum quality to it. It's a fantastic piece of music. Honestly, all of these were fantastic pieces of music. I love to tears every single one of these songs. All 5 of them were real killers to me. But anyway, let's go ahead and listen to our first winner, the Atari 50 Menu Theme by Robert Baffy. Enjoy. right, that was a menu theme from Atari 50th Anniversary Celebration, and boy, I love that. I've spent literal hours listening to that song this year when 100% completing that timeline. I love how it takes the Atari sound effects and incorporates them into the song itself. That's the kind of thing that has been, you've heard that a lot over the years, especially in retro compilations, but there's something very particularly special about doing it well. And this was handled so extraordinarily well that it never sounded like just random effects. It gave the overall a vibe of a combination between being in an arcade and being in a museum, which is just because the amount of space in the song, it feels so heavy. It feels so hollow and massive and expansive, but also it has those those retro Atari sounds in there, combining 2600, arcade, etc. Just kind of mixing them in rhythmically in an intelligent way, where it doesn't sound like just a mishmash of things that were thrown in there just to sound cool. It's like it really works on a different level. I think the song's a masterpiece.
Oh, absolutely. To your point about how museum, right? I'm a big avid. That's yeah, okay, redundant. I'm an avid museum goer, right? And definitely art museums and the like are, very big and spacious, so people can move through and not touch the art. So it does have a very particular sound, and I agree with you that this song has that space in it to make it feel like you're in a museum of sorts. And as you said, it's this timeline, this interactive timeline, which is just an awesome idea. Like, I want to talk about putting in content for the fans. Like, that's a great one, right? Again, to your point about using the old Atari sound effects as more than just, fodder. Because you're right, it can go very south very quickly if you're not careful. And I think a lot of careful consideration was put into crafting this piece of music. A lot of, a lot of love and care, right? Because for a lot of people, Atari was a starting place on this video game journey. It certainly was for me. That was my first console, was an Atari console. And what I love is there's a lot of reverence for the source material. And musically speaking, it's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful piece of music. It's just done so well. A lot of great dynamic. That's, I think, my favorite part is just the great dynamic of it. That you get this big opening piece, right, with everything going, but it's not intrusive. And then it does those nice chill dips.
Yeah, where it really quiets down and there's very, very little happening. But then when it comes back, and my favorite part, I think, is that piano riff that kind of happens. And it's all produced with this wonderfully retro sound. Like, it sounds very 80s-ish, but also very modern at the same time. I could gush about it all day, but we've got more awards to hit.
I absolutely could do the same. Fantastic piece of music. I'm happy it took the piece of the pie.
Congratulations, Robert Baffy. All
Absolutely.
right, Matt.
Yes, sir. Our next award category is Best Game Opener. This award goes to the song that properly opens up the gameplay for the first time. The first level, a training area, the first time the game truly shows you what it's about. And the nominees are Blossom Tales 2, title screen by Josie Brechner. Dodo, Funhouse Fiasco by Sean Bialo. Infernax, A Good Day to Be Alive by Olivier Couillard. Tunic, Memories of Memories by Lifeformed and Janice Kwan. Yars Recharged, An Army of One by Megan McDuffie. And the winner is Yars Recharged, An Army of One by Megan McDuffie. You and I gushed a bunch about Infernax in the last couple episodes. It's very clear we're huge fans of it. And for me, I really thought Infernax was going to take it because that's my inclinations. But then when I heard the Yars Recharge soundtrack, I thought, holy cow.
Yeah, it's only 4 songs, but
yeah,
she knocked it out of the park. This one is so this soundtrack was released late. It was like a late edition, like a day before the voting was kind of my cutoff for the voting, so we could get everything done in time to record the show. And I was so glad it dropped when it did. This one, I was afraid I had put it in the wrong category, but there is a mode in this game. I've played a lot of Yars Recharge. I think the game is ridiculously fun. And then I was playing it, and I was like, wait a minute, this isn't the song that opens the game. Oh no, did I do this wrong? And then there's a different mode that this is the opening stage in a different mode. The music that pops up when you open up with a different mode. I was like, yes, okay, nailed it. Because I remember doing that mode. I remembered this song being one of the first songs I heard. One of the first times that I played it, and just being like, this is killer, man. This is just killer. Again, to call out the rest of the in this category, the Infernax song "A Good Day to Be Alive" was. I can't even say it was my second choice, because I don't know what my second choice would have been. Like, I was really struggling with this category before the Yars Recharge soundtrack dropped, and I was like, yeah, that's the one. That's the one that I want. That's the one that's giving me the most chills. But that song from Tunic, oh, I really want to play that game. I really want to play Tunic.
Tunic is beautiful.
What a gorgeous soundtrack.
I don't know how I almost forgot about it. It's such a beautiful game with a beautiful soundtrack.
Donut Dodo's The Funhouse Fiasco is like, it is so invigorating. It is such a great way to start a game. And the title screen from Blossom Tales is just like, you're getting ready to go on an adventure. It's so good. But I mean, really, we can only have one winner, and this is where the votes landed, and I don't disagree. So without further ado, let's give a listen to An Army of One from Yars Recharged by Megan McDuffie. Was An Army of One from Yars Recharged by Megan McDuffie. Ass song's killer.
It's so good. There's a lot of elements in it that play to a lot of my musical leanings outside of video game music, which bleeds right into my leanings for video game music. But it's what I love about it. It's such a big song, right?
Yeah.
Like it's got a big sense of grandiose and stuff, and yet it's not like I don't know, pretentious, I suppose, where it's like, oh, we're going off on this big quest, so like we're fighting space, the whole galaxy, like, yeah, man, you know, it's just like, nah, dude, like lock and load, get in there and do your thing, man. Like it's great. I think it's so good. And then, like I said, even though, as you pointed out, it's only 4 songs, the soundtrack, quality over quantity in this case. Hands down.
Sure.
Hands down.
As I listen to it, I can't not hear the sound effects of the game. There's a lot going on, and there are a few things that you really need to be multitasking with your attention in this game. And one of the things that you always really, in the original game, it's the Kotile is that one hit kill thing that can get launched at you super quick. The Kotile is slower in this game, and the field is bigger, so it sometimes can seem like less of a threat, especially because you can take multiple hits, except from the Kotile. If the Kotile hits you, you're dead, and it has this like charge up thing that you hear. So you could be working on, eating away at some shields or something and getting ready to charge up your Zorlon cannon to take out the enemy Kotile. Its death laser thing can just it can come at you real quick. As soon as you hear that thing charging up, you've got to move out of the way.
And stop everything.
Stop what you're doing and make sure you're ready to dodge it, because it'll insta kill you and ruin your run. But it's on top of all these visual cues you have to be paying attention to, because there's all these guns all over the place that are shooting at you, and you can tell when they're going to shoot at you because this energy heads towards them to charge them up and then shoot at you. So you can tell what's going to shoot at you when, as long as you're paying attention to where those energy lines are going. The game is so genius. It's such a brilliant take on Yars' Revenge. And I'm so glad the soundtrack was as good as it was, because similar to Vampire Survivors, I didn't really notice the music outside of this song. At a certain point, you stop noticing the music because of how much you're concentrating on the stages themselves, And then hearing the music separated from is oh wait, this is ridiculously good, because a few days later you don't notice, at least how I experienced it, I didn't notice how much I was actually noticing the music, right? I feel like I'm not noticing it because I'm paying attention to it, and then later in the day I'm humming the music in my head I guess I really was paying attention to that. It was there. And the same exact thing happening with me with Vampire Survivors, which I'm sure we'll mention again soon. But great soundtrack and a really killer song. Great game opener. Well done, Mega McDuffie.
Yep, congratulations.
All right, next up we have Best Stage or Area Music. This one is pretty self-explanatory. These are the songs that make games games. Your Hyrule Fields, your Mushroom Kingdoms, your Bryn Stars. They're the core of video game music, and they're our most highly contested category.
Absolutely.
The final nominees are, and this was a massive amount of songs to pick from.
Yes, it was.
Narrowing this down to 5 was definitely hard for all parties involved. All right. And the nominees are Atelier Sophie 2, Distant Lightning by Kazuya Yanagawa, Daisuke Achiwa, Tatsuya Yano, and Ryudai Abe. Donut Dodo, Construction Site Chaos by Sean Bialo. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge, Mutants Over Broadway by T. Lopez featuring Anton Corazza. Vampire Survivors, Forest Night Fever by Filippo Vicarelli. Yars Recharged, Zorlon Cannon by Megan McDuffie. And the winner is Forest Night Fever from Vampire Survivors by Filippo Vicarelli. Vampire Survivors. I freaking love. Have you tried this game yet?
No, I have it downloaded. I got sucked into something else. I'll get here, I promise. Maybe the next time we record I'll have played it.
Seriously, this wasn't even the only song from this game in this category.
Yeah, I know. I know.
And just to call out the rest of the, I've never played an Atelier Sophie game before. That was a killer song. It was really neat.
Yeah.
Construction Site Chaos, the entire Donut Dodo soundtrack was fantastic. Construction Site Chaos, I think, is my favorite song in the game. I was really happy that one got enough votes to be up for consideration for nomination. This Shredder's Revenge, what a soundtrack. Yeah. What a game. Yeah. What a soundtrack. This freaking song, Mutants Over Broadway, I loved that song to death. And of course, Zorlon Cannon, Yars Recharged. The Zorlon Cannon was probably the other one that you would consider a game opener. It was up for both categories, and it wound up getting the votes in stage. Just magnificent song. But the Vampire Survivors, man, I have put so many hours in it. I was just playing it yesterday. Again, I'm so close to 100% completing the base game, and then I'm going to get that DLC and get new things. This game is so stupid fun. It's such a ridiculously fun thing. And there's so many sounds and so much chaos happening at all times, like even more so than in Yars Recharged. You almost don't notice the music when you're playing, because when you start, it's pretty quiet. But especially after you've put some time into leveling up your characters and you learn how to evolve the weapons, by the time you've put a couple of minutes in, there's so much happening on the screen. It is insane. I have loved this game to death. I'm so glad I bought it. It's one of the best $5 purchases you can make if you own an Xbox. Like, seriously. And the soundtrack is killer. The game is so goofy, which it doesn't look like it at the start. When you look at it at face value, when you hear the music, you don't realize how goofy it is. But there's a song in Vampire Survivors that is a super like Castlevania styled actiony version of that that like Italian spaghetti song.
Okay. Spaghetti song.
I don't know what else they call it. But they made that into this like serious action song. It is so hilarious. This game's amazing, top to bottom, and this song rules. So here, let's give it a listen to today's winner, Forest Night Fever from Vampire Survivors by Filippo Vicarelli. Enjoy. Right, that was Forest Night Fever from Vampire Survivors. Again, impossible not for me to not hear the game sounds over this. Boy, this is the This is the song in the second stage, the library. I'm pretty sure. For some reason, for the longest time I thought this was the first stage, but like, yeah, this. Oh my god, this song, this freaking game, is ridiculous. But this song is so killer, and it's hearing the song outside of the context of the game is such an eye opener for just how freaking good it is. Because like, you really only get a piece of it when you're playing the game because of how much chaos is happening, because of how many sound effects. But man, when you really hear the strumming of the guitars, the intricacies of the bass line, like, it is a freaking great song. It's such a good song from such a good game. Well done.
I can't say enough good things about this song. Of course, I'm speaking strictly from a Sonic point of view, right? I've yet to play the game, actually, as we've already mentioned. Anyway, thanks, Captain Obvious. This is so perfectly in the vein of the Castlevania more modern games, where it has that symphonic heavy-handedness, and yet like a more modern approach to the drum tempos and things like that. It's just such a great piece of music, and hearing it excites me for the game, which is strange because I don't know that happens all too often. It's kind of usually the other way around. But I mean, the game itself, I've heard a lot of amazing things, not only from you, but from several other friends. Yeah, I look forward to playing it. Can't wait. So congratulations to Filippo and Vampire Survivors. That brings us to our next category. We have Best Cinematic or Event Music. For many games, the action is only half of the experience. In those instances, the cinematics and events that tell the story tie everything together and make the gaming experience all that much more special. And the music composed for those scenes can be some of the most memorable. This is the category of Best Cinematic or Event Musics, and the nominees are Blossom Tales 2, Story by the Campfire by Josie Brechner. God of War Ragnarok, Yalahorn with His Sounds by Bear McCreary. Kirby and the Forgotten Land, Kirby and the Mysterious Vortex by Hirokazu Ando. Xenoblade Chronicles 3, A Life Sent on Unison by Yasunori Mitsuda. Xenoblade Chronicles 3, Weight of Life by Yasunori Mitsuda, arrangement by Kenji Hiramatsu. And the winner is Kirby and the Forgotten Land, Kirby and the Mysterious Vortex. Look, we said it before, every song that got nominated was fantastic. Like, they got nominated for a reason, right? And for me, this was a bit of a tough choice. There were several that I really, really liked, and I had to do that thing where I said, okay, at the end of the day, what is just, in my opinion, to my taste, what's the better track? And I'll reveal that this was my choice, and I'll get all the hate mail for the Xenoblade no love, and that's okay too. No, I'm kidding. But this is just a fun piece of music. Like, having not played this game, I had to imagine, some kind of storyline, some kind of cutscene, some kind of event, and I thought, yeah, this makes sense for that. I could totally see this in the Kirby universe. I can absolutely, without playing the game, I can envision it, right? I can envision Kirby and all his cute cohorts or whatever, kind of doing whatever it is they're doing. So I thought, to me, this track rather, will put that image in my head. I guess then we'll get right to it. We're gonna head over there and we're gonna play Kirby and the Mysterious Vortex from Kirby and the Forgotten Land. Enjoy. was Kirby and the Mysterious Vortex from Kirby and the Forgotten Land. I love it. It just like screams Kirby. And like having not played the game, there's that part where the music kind of changes a bit, and I feel again in my mind's eye that I can see something happen, like, oh, thanks Kirby, and then the guy's like, ah man, your princess is in another room, and like there's that sweet, but I'm being facetious, but I can totally see something in my head happening where it's like, yeah, we did it, and then it's like, just kidding, that was phase 1 of not my final form, or whatever. I'm being ridiculous. Please take over. I'm babbling.
If I'm remembering correctly, this is right in the beginning of the game, where Kirby gets sucked out of Dreamland and ends up in what I can only assume is post-apocalyptic Earth. This game was a masterpiece. It was neck and neck for my overall game of the year last year between this and Atari 50. And just me personally, with Atari meaning as much to me as it does, that one really hit me in the feels a bit more. But Kirby and the Forgotten Land is everything I could have wanted out of a Kirby game. I used to love them when they first came out. The original Game Boy one, the NES one, all the follow-ups, pretty much everything up to Super Nintendo, I was just in constant love with. And then at a certain point, I kept buying them, but I stopped enjoying them, really. There was just, they didn't feel the same. The Game Boy Advance ones continued to be great. Like the remake, Nightmare in Dreamland was excellent, and that kind of stuff. But they're the polygonal games in particular never really felt quite good to me. And I remember buying Star Allies when it came out on Switch and just being so supremely disappointed by it because it just felt so lackluster. This, though, is such an ambitious game. It was the first proper 3D Kirby game with full 3D movement, and they did not hold back at all. There's a ton of content, an amazing soundtrack top to bottom. And there were so many songs from this game up for consideration in every category.
Yeah.
And they were just slightly outclassed by other things, but this soundtrack is really more than the sum of its parts. It works so incredibly well. It in particular had some of my favorite boss music of the year, which I'm bummed it didn't even get enough votes in consideration to get into the actual. It didn't even get into the nominees, honestly. But one of my favorite boss songs of the year was the King DDD fight, which is this amazing reimagining of the original King DDD fight music from the Game Boy game. It's so freaking good. This game ruled, and it was only one of the two games that I played. The only two games I played out of this category with the final nominees were this and Blossom Tales, which is also just a magical game. And that story about the campfire song is so pretty. It's so pretty. God of War Ragnarok, I haven't played either of the new God of War games on PS4 or 5, so I thought the song was magnificent. Same with both of those Xenoblade Chronicles 3 songs. What a soundtrack. The Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is one of those ones that got nominations all over the place, because there's definitely at least one big Xenoblade Chronicles fan on our panel, but the rest of us had never touched it before, and it didn't even matter. Like, man, that's a soundtrack right there. Good job.
Yeah, buddy.
But for my money, this was also the one that I voted for, was Kirby and the Forgotten Land. It's just such a marvelous piece of music with all the weird noises that as the vortex is opening up and he's getting sucked into the other world, like just the way that it captures the feeling of that scene is great. So well done, Hirokazu Ando. Congratulations to the Kirby and the Forgotten Land team, and let us move on.
Yes.
Next up, one of my favorite categories is shop music. Not every game has a shop, but when they do, they usually come with some super memorable music. Here are the nominees for Best Shop Music. And the nominees are Blossom Tales 2, Shopping by Josie Brechner. Cuphead, The Delicious Last Course, Pork Rinds Provisions by Christopher Madigan. Kirby and the Forgotten Land, Waddle Dee's Weapon Shop by Hirokazu Ando. Return to Monkey Island, Fish Shop by Michael Land, Peter McConnell, and Clint Bajakian. Shovel Knight Dig, Overground, Hoofman's Shop Lair by Jake Kaufman. And the winner is Shovel Knight Dig, Overground, Hoofman's Shop Lair by Jake Kaufman. I did not play Shovel Knight Dig, and I really wanted to. I just didn't get around to it. That last year was just so packed full of games. And this year is also looking to be packed full of games. I really hope I get around to trying it, because Shovel Knight Dig was this wonderful... It was Nitrome, who I just discovered through Bomb Chicken a few years ago, doing Shovel Knight, which I freaking loved. And Jake Kaufman doing the music. The whole soundtrack sounds more Genesis-like than the original game, which I thought was a really cool sound. This was another really close category. The Waddle Dee's Weapon Shop from Kirby's great. The Cuphead DLC, Pork Rinds Revision, again with the Blossom Tales 2 soundtrack, and of course Return to Monkey Island. I really loved that game, and there was some excellent music in it, and I was glad it made it at the very least to a nomination in a category. But for me personally, this was the clear choice.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you, right? I love Return to Monkey Island. Just a lot of great music in that game. There's a lot of, but as you said in the little write up, not every game has a shop, so it becomes a little bit of a smaller playing field. Everybody on this list, even the ones that didn't make the nominees list, there's a lot of great stuff. Yeah, I liked the Kirby stuff, but ultimately Shovel Knight, I dug it.
All right. Well, on that glorious joke, let's go ahead and listen to Hoofman's Shop from Shovel Knight Dig by Jake Kaufman. Enjoy. That was Hoofman's Shop. I just can't believe how hard that song goes.
For no reason.
It's
like has no business.
It just gets, I mean, it starts off so freaking good, right? It's just got this great groove, but it just keeps getting more and more complex. Like, what are you doing? I'm glad you're doing it. I just don't know why. I'm so glad you're doing it, but wow.
It makes me like want to say that thing where it's like, man, save some for the rest of the soundtrack.
Right.
Like you just, I mean, who doesn't love like, kind of a chiptune reggae song? Like when that song hit me the first time, I was like, I'm sorry, what? And then it just held me, and I thought, this is brilliant. Like if I was playing this game, which again I haven't, but I couldn't imagine hearing it for the first time in game, like with against the rest of the soundtrack. All of a sudden you're there, and you're just like, what the hell is this, man? This is fantastic.
I mean, hearing the rest of this soundtrack, which was also kind of a heartbreaker because I love experiencing game music in the games, especially for games that I really, really was excited for. So having to hear this music separated from, like removed from actually playing the game was a wild experience. But it like you said about the Vampire Survivor song earlier, it makes me more excited to play the game. It's on my list of things to do. I just gotta, I have to get around to it. I'm hoping that the stars align and I can pick it up on sale or something because money's tight and Metroid Prime exists. But
yeah, seriously.
But yeah, what an amazing song from an outstanding soundtrack in a game I can't wait to play.
Absolutely. So congrats to the team over at Shovel Knight Dig and Jake Kaufman. The next one is one of our favorite categories, Best Boss Music. Music can make or break a boss encounter. They're frequently some of the most important and memorable parts of games, and their accompanying songs can easily be among the best of the best. This is the Best Boss Music, and the nominees are Cuphead DLC, Boree on the Board by Christopher Madigan. Infernax, Test Your Might by Jason Letourneau. Shovel Knight Dig, The Forager by Jake Kaufman. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Shredder's Revenge, Clash of the Outcast by T. Lopez. And Xenoblade Chronicles 3, Mobius Battle by Tomori Kudo. And the winner is Infernax, Test Your Might by Jason Letourneau. I mean, I can't say more about this game. You just need to go play it if you haven't. Kris and I have gushed about it a whole heck ton. I don't even want to talk about the song before you hear it, so we're just going to get right into it. This is Test Your Might from Infernax. Enjoy. That was Test Your Might off the Infernax soundtrack by Jason Letourneau. And I mean, how do you not like a chiptune song that basically sounds like it's supposed to be like a power metal, heavy metal song? This whole game is really like, and I apologize for using the turn of phrase, but it's really balls to the wall, right? It's a very adult, 8-bit, 16-bit game. It's just a lot of fun. It's gory, yes. The cutscenes are beautiful pixel art. And then the soundtrack, you have to have a soundtrack to keep up with this kind of game. And this soundtrack absolutely does that. But this song in particular, when you get into these boss fights, they're against these big, nasty, ugly beasts and demons and all kinds of crazy creatures. And this song kicks. It rips with every fight.
It does indeed. This This game's soundtrack really impressed me. This whole game really impressed me in a lot of ways. The multiple endings, how silly it is. There's so much good in Infernax. It's such an awesome game. And again, to shout out the rest of the competitors in this one, the rest of the nominees. Again, with the Shovel Knight Dig soundtrack, Shredder's Revenge. I'm sorry. God, that game is good, but really, when you boil it down to it, like when it came down to like boss music, like the actual song itself, it was a tough call. This one was another one that was a tie broke. It was a dead heat between this and the Mobius battle song, which is incredibly epic. But yeah, for my money, the Infernax song was where it was at. Test Your Might. It never stops making me think of like Test Your Might from Mortal Kombat and.
Right.
that Mortal Kombat theme, the Test Your Might, and of course the actual mini game of testing your might in the original Mortal Kombat, but still, phenomenal song, phenomenal, just well done all around. Congratulations, Jason, and it is time for our next category.
Yes, sir.
And now for a fun sidetrack. This category is for what we call best song from a remake or remaster. It's not exactly what I'd call a fair category sometimes, because this is really just for fun. Any game that incorporates notable new elements counts. I'm pretty sure I invented this category a few years back so that I could have an excuse to give Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze awards, even though it just had funky mode. But you know what? That was enough for me. Whether it was a game that was remade from scratch or a game compilation that modernizes classics in some sort of meaningful way, they qualify. It's more of a novelty category, but this is our show and we'll do what we want. So here are the nominees for best soundtrack from a remake or remaster. And the nominees are Chrono Cross by Yasunori Mitsuda, Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion by Takuhiro Ishimoto, Live Alive by Yoko Shimomura, Sonic Origins by Sonic Team, Turrican Anthology by Kris Hulsbeck. And the winner is Chrono Cross by Yasunori Mitsuda. Because of course it was.
Was there ever a doubt?
I mean, there was a little, because, I mean, when you really get down to it, Sonic Origins incorporates every song from the original Sonic games, and that's some amazing stuff, but really, I mean, Live Alive, Yoko Shimomura's Live Alive soundtrack was I wish I liked the game more. I tried the demo and it didn't stick with me, but that music was killer. And of course, the Turrican Anthology. Oh my goodness. Those remade songs from Turrican by Kris. Oh God, they're so good. But Chrono Cross stands in my memory as like the soundtrack I love the most from the game I like the least.
Which is an interesting statement to make out loud.
It is indeed. I took a week off of work when Chrono Cross came out so that I could sit at home and just play it nonstop, because Chrono Trigger, one of my favorite games of all time, and its soundtrack is a big part of that. And Yasunori Mitsuda was part of the original Chrono Trigger soundtrack and absolutely nailed Chrono Cross top to bottom. It is a phenomenal soundtrack with some just truly amazing music. And there are things I like about the game, and like I appreciate it more with some time behind me, but I got the remake and I still didn't finish it. It just like, there's something about it that just rubs me the wrong way, but it's certainly not the music and it's certainly not the visuals. Chrono Cross is an interesting thing, and this soundtrack is masterful. So the song that I chose, this was also a runaway. I think it was. I don't even think this one was all that close in the voting. The song I chose was the title theme, "The Scars of Time." This is the music that plays over the opening sequence in the game, the cinematics. It's a masterpiece of a song. It's this combination of flute and violin playing the main melody is just it's amazing. It's gorgeous. So let's go ahead and give it a listen. Here is "Scars of Time" from Chrono Cross by Yasunori Mitsuda. Enjoy. that was Scars of Time from Chrono Cross. That's probably one of my favorite video game songs ever. That song is amazing. I'll never forget the first time I heard that song was at I was working at Funco Land, and I was a huge Chrono Trigger fan, and that was like the trailer that was on our little VHS tape of trailers that we would play in the store, and it was the first time I'd seen the game in motion. I'd seen it in magazines and whatnot, but you didn't have the internet back then, right? So this comes in, and there's this Chrono Trigger comes on, and it's just the intro for the game, and this just amazing looking CG, especially for the time. And this song was like, oh, just what the heck? Such an amazing song. It's like really calm and pretty in the beginning, but geez, when those strings come in, just ramping up that energy and that the drum cadence and everything, those little drum fills that go throughout it, it's just chef kiss. Amazing song.
Yeah, absolutely. Like just as you said, it's a beautiful piece of music when it opens, but when it kicks over and the hand drums come in and the energy picks up, like, my goodness. I've never played Chrono Cross. There's always been a part, I mean, I love Chrono Trigger, obviously, and there's always been a part of me that always felt like, and again, this is sight unseen, so to speak, I always felt Chrono Cross might have been something that would have besmirched, the Chrono Trigger legacy. I don't know what to call it, but the more I do this show and the more Chrono Cross keeps coming, across my lap, so to speak, the more I think I may have really missed out on something. So I have to go back and check it out. And now this exists, so all the more reason. Because I've tried to go back and play some older games that I've missed, and I don't know if it's because of I've played so many new games now that I can't go backwards, or if I don't have a nostalgia attachment to it, I can't do it. But that should be no excuse, and now I have really no excuse. So
the Chrono Cross that was released on Switch is an interesting experience because it has some just weird technical issues that should not exist. But I do think it is far and away a better way to play the game than playing the PlayStation 1 original. But still, it's just a port of that game, and that is a PlayStation 1 RPG. But it also comes with the Super Nintendo sort of not Chrono Cross. Okay. So there was a follow-up to Chrono Trigger on the Super Nintendo in Japan. It was on the BSX Satellaview. It was a download-only thing, and it's a text adventure.
Huh.
And it tells it has characters from Chrono Cross in it. Like the characters from Radical Dreamers were eventually repurposed into the story of Chrono Cross. They look different, but their names are effectively the same. Their core characteristics are effectively the same. So it was really fascinating to finally get to play it translated into English officially. And a lot of the music was reused too. The battle music's the same, just coming out of Super Nintendo instead of a PlayStation. It's right. such an interesting experience. I don't know that I'd call it a good experience. Like,
it's an experience, yeah.
It's not a bad experience at all, but it's such a weird thing. This text adventure, it's. There's very little visual going on. There's just some repeating things that go on in the background, and it's very effective in what it's trying to do. I didn't finish it because I just kind of didn't want to, but it is such a fascinating little thing, and I'm so glad it exists and is accessible to play in English. But Chrono Cross is worth experiencing for the soundtrack alone, even if you don't finish the game. If you're a fan of Chrono Trigger, you owe it to yourself to see if Cross scratches the right itches, because the thing is that different people love Chrono Trigger for different reasons.
Right.
And Chrono Cross nails a lot of things. It also it misses a lot of things that I personally love about Chrono Trigger. So that was one of the reasons that Cross, even spending a solid week off of work playing it, I got all the way up to the very end, and I never finished it. Never crossed that finish line. It is an interesting experience, but boy, what a soundtrack! No matter how you slice it.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, absolutely. I've got to experience a lot of it for this show in particular, but just in doing this show as a whole. So, all right, well, it's time for the big ones. Our final two categories. First, we have Best Original Song. And the nominees are Atari 50, the Anniversary Collection, Menu Theme by Bob Baffy. Kirby and the Forgotten Land, A Trip to the Alival Mall by Hirokazu Ando. Pokemon Legends Arceus, Jubilife Village by Go Ichinose Hitomi Sato and Hiramitsu Meiba. Shovel Knight Dig, Spore Judgment by Jake Kaufman. Xenoblade Chronicles 3, Weight of Life by Yasunori Mitsuda, arrangement by Kenji Haramatsu. And the winner is Xenoblade Chronicles 3, Weight of Life by Yasunori Mitsuda, arrangement by Kenji Hiramatsu. I know a lot of people are going to be very happy about that choice. We are too. I thought, this song, amongst everything we've listened to make this episode happen, in my personal experience, this was one of my favorite songs, head and shoulders above a lot of other pieces of material. It's just beautiful. And now, if you haven't heard it before, it's your opportunity to hear it. So here is coming your way, Weight of Life from Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Enjoy. was The Weight of Life. There is no the. That was Weight of Life. I absolutely love that song. There's so much to that song that reminds me of other kind of mediums of entertainment, most notably like anime intros. I feel like there's a lot of anime intros that have this very dynamic opening musical number that incorporates these big grand sweeping pieces to say like, oh, we're going to go out and we're doing this big thing, we're saving the world against insert enemy, and then it descends down and dynamically into this slow part that gives you kind of all the feels, as the kids say, and they sort of introduce their female characters. I see very particularly in my head certain intros where they do a 360 animation of them or whatever, and they're looking down forlorn. But this song is just so beautiful. It's got these great peaks of high energy and excitement, and then these deep valleys of very emotional chords and melodies. Choice in orchestration, choice in musical instrumentation is just fantastic. It's just such a great piece of work, and I couldn't be happier to see that take Best Original Song.
Yeah, this is a really stunning song from an overall stunning soundtrack. So this was kind of a front runner early on, like even when we were coming up with the nominations in general out of every song for consideration. This was a front runner really early on. This one was almost unanimous of this one winning this category. And again, not to disparage the other things, I was thrilled to see Atari 50 menu theme get nominated personally, because it's one of my favorite songs of the year. I was really happy that enough other people liked it to get it up in the nominations. I also love that Trip to a Live Mall from Kirby and the Forgotten Land. It's such a joyous little song. The Jubilee Village from Pokemon Legends Arceus. I was surprised that there wasn't more from Pokemon Legends. I had a couple of people that were Pokemon fans in my expanded net, and I asked them for songs to throw up for consideration, and nobody gave me anything from Scarlet and Violet, but I got a couple of songs from Arceus, and that was it. I was genuinely surprised by that. But the Shovel Knight Dig Spore Judgment, what a song. Wow, that song knocked my socks off. That was really something special. But really, at the end of the day, it had to be this Xenoblade Chronicles 3 song. This Weight of Life was just such a moving piece of music. Is really, really excellent song. And that brings us to our final category of the show, our final award of the show. These are the nominees for Best Original Soundtrack: Infernax by Jason Latourneau, Jules Conroy, and Olivier Couillard. Shovel Knight Dig by Jake Kaufman. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge by T. Lopez. Tunic by Lifeformed and Janice Kwan. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 by Yasunori Mitsuda and team. And the winner is Xenoblade Chronicles 3 by Yasunori Mitsuda and team. There were a lot of people on this soundtrack. Yasunori Mitsuda was the primary, but really, just by sheer weight, just pound for this Xenoblade Chronicles 3 soundtrack is like a bajillion songs long, and they're all good.
Yeah.
Really, this was such a fun category. This was such a fun thing to do because there's so much great music, and I loved that there was a mix of big AAA stuff and indie stuff. It did seem like the indies really ran away with it this time around. But, Xenoblade Chronicles 3, Kirby and the Forgotten Land, God of War, these games were big AAA games. And but you know what it really comes down to is we're not just judging the songs based off of just the songs themselves. It's also how effective they are in the games, and just casting as wide a net as we can to try to make this as fair as possible. And but Xenoblade Chronicles 3, again, was such an early front runner. There were so many songs being nominated from this game, and every single time they came across my desk, I'd just be like, wow, that's a really freaking good song.
Yeah.
So yeah, congratulations to Yasunori Mitsuda and everybody involved in Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Apparently is a magnificent game. It's getting some super cool DLC soon, and a wonderful, wonderful soundtrack. Well done, everybody, and well done to all of our nominees. And you got any final thoughts before we wrap this up?
I mean, I think we said it at the top, but if we didn't, I'm going to say it. And if we did, I'm going to reiterate it. A big, 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 big thank you to everyone that helped us put the nominees list together. It was no small task by any stretch of the imagination. So everyone who, dedicated time and energy, because we don't pay nobody,
including ourselves.
Including ourselves. It's truly just a humbling thing for me to know that there are people out there who love video game music as much as we do, and that they're willing to, go into the void with Kris and myself as we go back and take on this mammoth task. It's truly humbling, and I think I speak for Kris when I say thank you all very, very, very much. And as always, you guys are out there listening to us. We do this not only for ourselves, we do it for you. So we really, really appreciate everyone who reaches out, who anything. We love it. So thank you, everyone.
Yeah, we had to stop doing the show this way. We had to stop doing the award show this way because there was no way for us to do it with any level of objectivity because we couldn't listen to everything. It's not like companies are submitting songs to us for nomination. We're this tiny little podcast. So the only real way to make sure we're casting a fair net is by listening to everything. Mm-hmm. I used to track down every soundtrack I could from every game released in a year and spend a couple of months listening to everything and coming up with these considerations myself. And this year we were fortunate enough to have a team of people to be able to farm out and say, all right, I have no Pokemon knowledge. So you guys listen to these Pokemon soundtracks if you've played the games or whatever, and let us know what songs from this are great. You've played God of War. I haven't touched it. There's got to be, we had a couple of songs up for consideration from Splatoon 3. I mean, the list of games was massive, and we considered music from just about every notable release of the year, everything that we could think of. Of course, I personally noticed after everything was done that I skipped over a game entirely. Super Mega Zero has a super awesome soundtrack. I have no idea if it would have won any categories because I completely forgot to include it in this because nobody's perfect, and I apologize to the team at Super Mega Zero because that game's awesome. And
maybe we should do an episode.
Maybe we should just do an episode in the not too distant future. I'll throw it on the list. Yeah, good stuff. But I hope this was fun for everybody. We had a blast doing it. I look forward to doing it again next year, and that is our show. Once again, huge congratulations to all the winners and the nominees. There was so much in every great category to choose from, and while the choices were tough, I'm happy with the way things turned out. Join us next time when we celebrate the upcoming release of Tears of the Kingdom and the 6-year anniversary of the Nintendo Switch itself by covering the music of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, as requested by patron Jamie Hill. We're going to leave you tonight with a song from our Best Original Soundtrack winner, Xenoblade Chronicles 3. The song is called Off Seer, and I believe it's the title theme from the game. This was recommended by our esteemed panel of judges. So thanks again, everybody, for listening, and we'll see you next time for Zelda. And here is Off Seer from Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Enjoy.